Exercise 13, Creo 5.0. In this exercise, we're going to take a look at creating this bottle that you see here on the screen. It's actually a swept bottle. We're going to put in some cutout features that you see here, as well as we're going to look at how to create threads and thread lead-ins. As you can see, the nice transition that we have here, that's one method. And then I'll also show you another method, which is just a simple fillet and then putting some additional fillets on. So let's take a look at how that works. Let's begin with a new file. Go ahead and name it E13. And it should be a part file, and hit OK. We're going to first select the front plane and start a sketch. Take your line tool and at the origin, drag up a vertical line, and let's make the height of the bottle 10 inches. And hit OK. Now again, select the front plane, start another sketch, and this time we're going to use the spline tool. Align yourself to the bottom, this the horizontal line there, and make sure you're a distance away. And again, this is going to be a bit free form and off the cuff, so don't worry too much about dimensions in this case. But I'm going to be just over to the left a little bit there. Click, and somewhere in the middle there between the top and the bottom, I'm just going to put a little bit of a bow in the bottle. And I'm actually going to have this up a little bit higher than the path that I drew earlier. So you can see it's about 10.09 or something. That's fine. If it's 10, it's fine. It doesn't really matter as long as it's longer. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and hit OK. And again, I'm going to select the front plane and start another sketch. And once again, select the spline tool. And on this opposite side, draw another profile. And this one could be a little more subtle, maybe have it come in a little bit. You could even put in a few more points if you like, make it a little bit more detailed. And I have this almost 3 inches off from the left. That one's probably around the same, approximately about 3 inches each space. So we're looking at a base of the bottle is only about 6 inches. Okay, hit the OK button. And now, if you rotate that a little bit so it looks like it's resting on its side, let me turn on our planes and such. We're going to go ahead and go to the sweep tool here. Click on sweep. And under references, we're going to first select the path which is in the center, and then hold Control and select both guide curves that we drew. And now up here, you'll see a little pencil is available to edit the sweep section. Go ahead and select that. Now what I'd recommend is rotating this a little bit so you could actually see what it looks like from a vantage point, maybe similar to what I have. And now we're going to draw the bottom of the bottle. So go with the spline tool, and again we're going to kind of, I'm going to allow you to do whatever you like in this case. I'm going to start at this end point of this area here, click and drag it up, and I'm not going to go crazy with a bunch of points here, just add in a few, like so. Now go to the center line tool, and at each one of those points draw a vertical center line. And the reason for that is now we could go to the tangency option, select tangent, select the spline you drew, and then the vertical center line that you drew there. So let's do that over here too. Click here and here. And that gives a nice smooth transition because we want it to be smooth on both sides. If we didn't do this, it wouldn't be tangent, thus you could have a rough transition there. Okay, now we're going to mirror that across. So make sure you have a center line at the bottom to mirror across, like so. And we should be able to go to the mirror tool. And we're going to go ahead and mirror that over. Oops. Hold on a second. Let me select that geometry and go to mirror, and then select the center line you want to mirror it across, and you should end up with something like this. Now, at this point, you could actually grab a spline point and adjust it. The problem with it is that, as you can see in this case, it's not carrying over the symmetric relation. I'm not sure if I selected a point incorrectly or what there, but I'm going to delete that bottom, and I'm going to make some subtle changes to this. Don't want it so thick, I guess. All right, and let's try that again. I'm going to select the curve, go to mirror, select the center line, and that's it. Okay, now what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and hit OK. And you can see it will loft, or I should say sweep, our geometry throughout those curves. Okay, once you have that, hit the green check mark. Now we're going to make that cutout in here. So what I would recommend doing is select the front plane, go to Sketch, and use the spline tool once again. And we're going to go ahead and draw and have it come out a little bit. Draw this across. Oops. Let me try that again. I must have, something happened there. Draw this across like so. And I'm kind of making the handle here come out near the base, just like that. Notice that they're beyond the boundaries. You can pull that in down a little bit farther if you like, make some adjustments to it, however you prefer. And now I'm going to go ahead and hit OK. And then we go to Project. Select Project. And the surfaces, go ahead and Control select both sides. And you'll see it will project our curve around the outside there. And you could go ahead and hit Apply. And we have it go all the way around. Now if we select this geometry here, we should be able to go back to Sweep. And it, right here is fine for our actual profile. We could flip the arrow and have it down here. Either way is fine. But I'm going to go over here to the Sketch tool, create the sketch, and now I'm just going to draw a circle right there, and I'm going to make it 0.85, and you could adjust it depending upon the geometry that you've created. It might be too big, might be too small. Get a good feel for it. Up at the top here though, be aware that it's going to get very tight when it wraps around there, so make it small enough to where it doesn't intersect itself. Okay, at this point I'm going to go ahead and hit OK. And we can see the preview. Now that's going to add material. We don't want that, so we want to select up here the Remove Material button. And if it looks like it's working, you're in good shape. Hit the green check. Now we're going to put a neck on the bottle. So go ahead and select this top face here. Go to the Extrude button and draw a profile. Again, since we're using our own dimensions here, just draw it enough to where it's not touching the edges, but a little bit of a distance away. Mine's like 1.2, that's pretty good. We could go ahead and just 1.25 there. It might be too large for yours, so feel free to adjust it. Hit OK. And now we only want it to go 3/4 of an inch. So double click on that dimension, 0.75, hit enter. And actually we could have it go 1 inch, sorry. 1 inch looks pretty good. Hit the green check. All right, now we want to put a thread on that. But before we put the thread, actually, we should add that last, and you'll see why in just a moment. What we're going to do is we're going to put the blends and rounds on this bottle. So go to the Rounds tool and select this edge down here. And you'll see you could grab the points and drag it out. And grab these points and drag it out until you get a profile that you can appreciate. You like it, and it's not overwhelming the bottle. I'm going to go with 0.375 here. And then I'm going to select this edge right here and go with much smaller. I'm going to drag that in, just a subtle radius there, and then one here. And then up at the top here, I'm going to select this edge, and then this edge as well. Okay, if it disappears on you, it can't it's a little too small there. So I'm going to drag these in. And unfortunately, it's not liking that, so I'm going to Control Select to deselect that. And my previews disappeared, so I'm hoping that it worked. Unfortunately, it's not liking the geometry. So let's make that a little bit smaller, 0.01. Let's see if we can, no, that's not good. We could go to the sets and take a look at what set might be causing some problems. So this one I'm going to delete. Okay, as well as set 4, I'm going to delete that. Now while we're in here, let's take a look at that bottom. First of all, well, we'll leave that for a moment and we'll go back to it. I want to show you how you could add curvature continuous or G2 fillets on there. But let's go back and add this one and maybe make it a little bit more subtle. And then select this edge. And again, we're having a little issues. Let's see if we could not have them contact. Usually Creo does a pretty good job of blending the two. In this case, I'm having somewhat of a challenge. So if it seems to disappear on you, grab those handles and adjust them. Now, let's take a look back at the bottom again. When you go to set 1, that was our set 1 on this list, instead of a circular option, go with C2 continuous. C2 and G2 are basically, it's a curvature continuous surface transitioning between the fillet and the main surface bodies that it's adjacent to. And instead of using a typical radius, it blends it better. The radius is not consistent throughout. It's actually using kind of like a spline. And essentially, you'll see once we run it under an analysis, a surface analysis, that it's going to transition much better than an ordinary fillet would. And we'll look at that in just a moment. But right now we could go ahead and hit apply. Okay, let's try and shell the bottle now. Now you may not be able to shell. Be aware, over the years, shelling has improved, but it's never, especially with very complex models, it's very difficult and challenging at times. And there were times when I would design items that were very free form, and I would actually have to model in the thin wall. Like I'd have to remove material by essentially modeling a profile of the very same entity internally. So there's instances where that occurs. So just be aware, shelling is not always going to work, but let's give it a shot. Cross your fingers, click on shell, set it to a very thin 0.03. And if it doesn't work, you could go ahead and set it larger, or smaller, I should say. I could probably even, I'm going to try setting mine a little bit larger to 0.04. Okay. So we did manage to shell the bottle. If you got an error message, set it to 0.001 or something very thin if you like. You don't really need to shell it right now. In fact, if you're going to send the bottle off to be molded, they prefer not to have it shelled. One reason, though, that you do want to shell typically is so you can find the volume of the contents. So that is important to be able to get that information off of the bottle. Okay, so now that we have that, we're going to go ahead and learn how to put a thread on the neck of the bottle. What you do is you go ahead and select the front plane in this case and start a sketch. Zoom up to the neck of the bottle and take the line tool, and on the edge of this silhouette edge, get a little bit below, because in the case of a bottle, especially the neck of a bottle with a thread, you'll notice that they rarely ever start at the very top. They actually are down a little bit offset from the top. So right about there, I'm going to click and drag this down to right about there, middle click, and we'll add some dimensions. The overall is going to be 0.5. I guess we could actually go a little bit higher than that, 0.75. And then dimension, go to the dimension tool, and this point to the top edge, we just want a buffer zone of 0.1. Once you have that, hit OK, and now make sure that your axis display is checked on if you've turned it off. Mine was on automatically, so I'm in good shape. And now we're going to go to the little arrow to the right of sweep, and we're going to use a helical sweep. So select that, and then under references here, select this little edge, and the arrow is where the sweep is going to start. So if that's where you want your thread to start, that's fine. Click on it to flip it if you want it to start from the base, but we actually want it from the top. And then click on this helix axis and select the axis in the center of the neck. Now we need to set up the pitch, and in this case we'll probably try 0.125 since we have a lot of space there. And then finally go over here to the create or edit sweep section And then mine went upside down, but that's okay. Zoom up to where you see the intersection taking place again on the neck. And if you want to make it simple, you could just draw a circle right at that point. Otherwise, you could actually take the line tool and make like a traditional thread that you would see on a soda bottle or any sort of bottle. I'm going to draw this in, and it's a good idea to have it intersect into the actual neck of the bottle. If you draw it right on the edge, sometimes you'll get little errors because it tries to merge the geometries and it can't. And so in this case, I'm going to connect these. I have a little bit of a taper on both of those. I'm not going to put all the dimensions in. But it is important to use the sketch fillet at this point in time and put your radiuses in on the corners, these two outside corners, because later on it's very difficult to put those in. Actually, Creo does a pretty decent job when I was tinkering with it earlier versus some other CAD systems I've used in the past. So needless to say, just go ahead and draw that in. Don't make it too big or too, I mean, if you make it small, you'll still see it. But in this case, I just went ahead and eyeballed it. I'm going to go ahead and hit OK. And here we could actually see we have a lot more threads than we really need. So I'm going to adjust the pitch. I'm going to put in 0.2. And that's a little bit better. A little bit more detailed than I like, but that's okay. We could stick with it. Now, before you apply it, be very careful because this might actually be normal too. If you go to the references, it should actually be normal to trajectory. Otherwise, if you don't do this, later on when we put in the lead-in is not going to match this angle or the pitch that you see here. So just be aware, make sure normal to trajectory. Hit apply. Okay, so we have the thread. Let's put a little bit of a fillet on here. So go to the round tool and select this edge. Now this is one method, but with the sets here, let's see here. Let's actually drag that out. And unfortunately, it's grabbing the wrong edge. We do have the ability to turn off the tangent propagation here. Okay. Not doing what I was expecting it to do, but that's okay. I'm drawing a blank here. If any of you find the tangent propagation, go ahead and just note it on the bottom of the video. I don't redo videos typically. I got it to work last time, but unfortunately I'm drawing a blank right now. It's kind of late. Anyhow, instead of that one right now, typically what you can do, you can just select the edge, put a fillet in, and it does what I was hoping it to do. But that's not necessarily a good lead-in for the top of the bottle. So here's how to do a real lead-in. Select this face and go to Revolve. Zoom up to that face and proceed to project the edges on the outside. Make sure, I must have missed that edge. Might actually have more than I need. I'm going to wipe those out because I think I clicked twice on an edge and that's sloppy geometry. So make sure you don't click twice. You might end up with a fragment locked in there. Okay, I think I'm good. All right, now I'm going to go to the line tool, and this last one, connect both ends with a straight line. Now take your center line tool and draw a center line, but don't let it snap to anything. Have it just kind of go at an arbitrary angle if you can. And now middle click 2 times and go to parallel and make this parallel to that. And then what you're going to have to do, it shoots it way out far, find that dimension, and get it within like 0.125 distance of the actual line that you just drew. Don't want it too large because the further it goes out, the bigger that revolve is going to be, and your lead-in is going to not look correct. So once you have that, hit OK, and now you can see the lead-in appearing. And actually, so there is our lead-in. Now here's the issue. I'm going to turn off my spin center. This will enable us to rotate around that segment there. So spin center is great. It finds the centroid of the model, but in this case turn it off and you could rotate and pivot just in that region so you could get a better look at what's going on. Now here's a couple things you could do if you're having this intersection. You could actually, instead of 360, maybe 60 degrees is kind of a sweet spot. Hit enter. However, it's not liking that, so let's bring it in a little bit further. And it's not liking it at all. So sometimes you could get away with it, but do 360. And I'm going to show you a trick. Hit the green check mark. Now to get rid of that in the center, this is what you can do. You select this face, go to extrude, and proceed to go to project and select this edge and this edge. Now the inner edges, I accidentally selected this one here, so I'm going to click on that and hit delete. I don't want that to be part of my selection. Now notice what I did. I just got, basically I could have drew a circle on the inside essentially. Hit OK. Flip this so it's going down into the bottle, but don't have it go too deep. Only have it go maybe a ½ inch or so, just to clear it. And make sure you select remove material, and that trims it up. Hit the apply button, and now your bottle is complete. To get rid of these, you could actually, you don't want to delete them, you just click on them and hide them. There is actually an area up here where if you go to the what am I looking for? Let's see here, the show options, and you could actually highlight certain things or hide certain things. But anyway, I'm just clicking on them and hiding them. Like here's an extra piece there, click on it, click on hide, and then we could turn off all that. Okay, now we see our bottle. Let's enhance it a little bit. If you go to view, go to appearances, I'm going to go with polished aluminum, and over here I'm going to select the whole part and click on it, and then middle click. And then I'm going to go in and select the little gold, and I'm going to select surfaces and select that surface there and that surface there. Oops, got to hold control and middle click. You'll notice on my other bottle I have a handle cut out there. All I did for that was I selected the front plane, went to extrude, and using the spline tool I drew that in. So this is all I did. I just went ahead and followed that curve, and then when you get to where it's bending in, put a lot of little points in to control it. Then you could wrap it around. And then for this, we're just going to hit OK and have it cut through both sections. Although I should have done this earlier, let's see if we could reorder it. I'm going to go to cut and both directions, make sure it clears it, and hit the green check. Now you can clearly see it's hollow, so unfortunately all of our liquid is going to drain from that. So I'm going to try and reorder that. There's my extrude. I'm going to grab it and drag it and try and get it above the shell feature. And now, there it is. Now here's the thing, to put the fillets on there, because we want to blend that in nicer than that sharp edge, go to the insert here arrow, drag it up just underneath the extrude 3 and right between the shell. Oops, let me try that again. There we go, and it's like a little time machine. We just rolled back in time, and whatever we add to this right now, because if you look, it's not shelled yet. And so now we could go in and add more blends. We go to the model tool, go to the round, and let's go ahead and plug in a little bit bigger than that. Let's go with 0.1 perhaps, and select this edge here, and we could adjust that. And then add the same one over here. And then hit apply. Now that's very sloppy. I just kind of threw it together there. But be aware that you could adjust that and tinker with it. I'm just throwing it back in. Now we could roll back. Grab the insert here, drag it all the way to the bottom. Cross your fingers, hope that no errors appear. And we have our bottle completed. And that concludes exercise 13.